Hello, my friends, and welcome to the final Week 16 edition of Rotoworld Live, served by Applebee's. As always, I am joined by my handsome and lovely co-workers, Patrick Daugherty, John Daigle, Hayden Winks. Gentlemen, oh, what a season it's been. What a Week 16 it is shaping up to be. We have just some massive news, some changes to hit on. Again, everyone out there, the most important part of the show is you. Be sure to get in your questions and we'll answer them for 45 seconds leading up to kickoff. Hayden, actually, we're going to start with you. Let's start with this question because Cleveland has no wide receivers. That has half of their offensive line. It has no backup linebackers. They're favored by 6.5 points on the road against the Jets. How should we be handling Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Austin Hooper, everyone in this lineup?
Yeah, I mean, they're starting Marvin Hall and Jamarcus Bradley, and we had to look at the Jamarcus Bradley player page, and he had 900 yards as a redshirt senior at the University of Louisiana. So I'm not sure if we're dealing with NFL caliber athletes at a lot of the positions. And I mean, Jedrick Wills and Wyatt Teller missing, that's a big deal. Like, I know that Jarvis Landry and those guys get all the attention, but losing two of your best offensive linemen is a big deal. So you have to downgrade Baker Mayfield. He was probably flirting with top 12-ish quarterback rankings, and now he's probably closer to quarterback 20, 24, somewhere around there. And Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are just going to get the rock over and over and over again. And you just have to hope that without Quinnen Williams, the Jets just can't stop that because that's how they're going to move the ball.
I think he's still a safe play, but he now lacks the ceiling that he had with those players available.
And in Week 16, you go for the ceiling, right? Like, we don't play to get in second place necessarily because you're already in second place. And I would say, Hayden, if Quinnen Williams was playing, I'd feel a lot worse about this situation. Yes. Yeah. But, he's their best defensive piece, and he's not in the field either. So it's going to be an interesting one to watch. All right.
I would say real quick, if you're looking for a tight end, I think that Austin Hooper becomes a really good play. His usage the last couple of weeks has been trending up. He was injured, and he was dealing with those weather games early on and Odell Beckham. Now I think we're going to see that Austin Hooper that they signed for.
Pat, over to you. Keenan Allen. The Chargers are facing the Denver Broncos, 2.5-point home favorites here. Justin Herbert to Austin Eckler. But tell us the news and notes of Keenan Allen, who's had some major important periods of the season.
Yeah, we're having dueling report season on Keenan Allen, or one of the top dogs says he's not going to play, and then one of the lesser top dogs said he might play.
Name names.
We're not going to name names. We're 10 days removed from the 24-snap fiasco, and there were never any reports of setbacks in that game. But, I mean, he must not have gotten a whole lot. He must not have gotten as healthy as they thought he was going to in those intervening 10 days because the reports I was expecting way more positive reports this week, and they just didn't happen. And, maybe with the season over, Hunter Henry on the COVID list, they're just way less inclined to push it too. And it certainly seems like he's trending towards an out. Or if he plays another super ridiculous snap counted game. And I basically ranked him as on the wide receiver 4 or 5 borderline, the 48 to 50 range, someone with a 0-point floor, and someone in a 12 to 14 team league. If you just need true desperation option, it's still Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen could still make 4 or 5 targets. Something happened with that. But yeah, you have to pursue him as someone with a 0 floor for the fantasy finals.
Absolutely crazy that you mentioned Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, Hunter Henry, Keenan Allen, and this team could legitimately go 5-11 this season. So that's the LA Chargers here.
Very, very surprised that you didn't get good injury news from the Chargers organization.
Yeah.
All right. Once again, you are the most important part of this show. Continue to get in your questions, and we'll get to them. Again, we want to win this week. We want to win your championships for you. And let's start off, John Daigle, from one Texas guy to another. Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts? Still undecided. We were talking on the show beforehand that if you're not going to get 60 rushing yards in Week 16, do we really care about you? Well, both of these players almost certainly will hit that mark. So which one is a better play?
Brady threw for 340 and 40. He's going to be the QB9 on the week because he can't run it all. It's close, but I drew a line with a tweet on Friday, and I'm sticking with that line. I have Hurts one spot over Lamar Jackson. I just think the spot is better. I think it's a blow-up spot for the Eagles offense. The Eagles team total has increased 3 whole points throughout the week and is now sitting 4th overall among all teams that play on Sunday. So, yeah, Hurts is my QB4 on the week, but I could even be convinced to move him up a little further. So, yes, over Lamar indeed.
I like it. Yep, the Eagles are expect to score 26.5 points.
The only thing that scares me is Sanders poaching Hurts. But for season long, we don't know. We're not worrying about that. There's no leverage off of that. So you just play Hurts and hope for the best.
Cool. All right, let's keep it moving. Daigle, thank you for that one. Hayden, over to you. Chase Claypool or T.Y. Hilton in full point PPR. I mean, goodness gracious, what a weird and rocky season for Chase Claypool. Some of it's on him. A lot of it's on the quarterback situation. Whereas we believed in him about midway through the year, T.Y. Hilton has had a late surge, except for last week, which week 15 was Zach Pascal's season.
Yeah, that seemed pretty fluky to me. Chase Claypool is like, he's still mixing in snaps with James Washington. So I think I have to go T.Y. Hilton just because there's at least a snap floor there. It sucks. We have to remember Chase Claypool for next year, though, because his upside's insane. Hopefully they get a better quarterback, honestly.
All right, Pat, up to you. Mike Davis or DK Metcalf in half-point PPR. You know, a lot of situations we talk about wanting those backfield touches. I'm not so sure if Mike Davis is going to have success against that Washington defensive line. Meanwhile, DK Metcalf is an amazing football player. Half-point PPR, which one are you rolling with?
Well, I mean, Mike Davis's case was always about the touches. Now the touches aren't even that great. And like you said, facing a bad matchup, he's like a low-end wide receiver too. Everyone has PTSD from DK Metcalf getting kind of eliminated from Jalen Ramsey 6 weeks ago, but there's just basically no way I could, in good conscience, play Mike Davis over DK Metcalf. The risk with DK Metcalf is real. Jalen Ramsey's having one of those classic shutdown corner seasons. Like, this is not like, you're not like getting in your own head worrying about Jalen Ramsey, but like, I've got to go for that ceiling with DK Metcalf, who can score a 60-yard touchdown on any player in the NFL. And I have to have that in my lineup over Mike Davis.
I do agree with you, but I have more PTSD of the Seahawks offense just being abysmal.
True.
The past month, except when they play the Jets, of course.
Dago, I have a Rams running back question for you. I know that Darrell Henderson is someone who could be seeing more work. He saw more work at other points this year, but Cam Akers is going to be out of this contest. We just spoke about Mike Davis and full point PPR. Which side are you leaning here?
I'm leaning Henderson still. Davis will have more catches than Henderson, but I think Henderson will out-touch him significantly as the team continues to get Rodney Smith involved. It all comes down to game script. Malcolm Brown outsnapped Henderson last week, but I think that was incorrect because they were down by 3 scores in the third quarter. Whereas this game, I expect them to compete, if not outright beat the Seahawks. So I like Henderson, even though we know he's going to get most of his touches on first and second down. I think he gets 20-plus carries today.
Hayden, here's a good question from Chuck B. Chuck B. With Zeke active, which we all wish he was not, should I play Tony Pollard or Kiki Cutie in my flex spot? Look, the Texans are expected to score 26.5 points on the Cincinnati Bengals. Tony Pollard did work last week on a massive touch volume, but we really can't expect him to have, more than 10 touches, 8 touches in this contest?
Yeah, that's probably the most realistic outcome. I think this is one of the situations where, like, if you're supposed to lose your matchup by like 10 points or something, I would swing for the fences with Tony Pollard. Maybe Zeke doesn't get fully cleared. Maybe he's like on he's only going to mix in on that Keenan Allen, like 20 snaps, and then Tony Pollard goes nuts again. But yeah, I think their median outcomes are probably pretty similar. So I would possibly go with Tony Pollard if I was projected to lose. If you're projected to win, maybe take the floor with Kiki Kuti. But the matchup's not like that insane. I think he's better against zone than man.
Pat, we have a baseball fan, so I'll ask this one to you. Go LA Dodgers on Twitch asks Antonio Gibson, who now from media reports, take those for what you want, seems to be getting a sizable workload today against the Panthers. J.K. Dobbins or DJ Moore in full point PPR. It would be difficult for me to move off J.K. Dobbins in this situation, but I've seen, look, I love Rich Rewild's work, and I think he has him like outside the top 20 running backs this week.
J.K. Dobbins is extremely difficult to rank. I had him like all over like the RB 12 to 20 range this week. I mean, he's been showing out so well, but I mean, Gus Edwards is like very real, and like 10 carries like very real for Gus Edwards. That being said, with Antonio Gibson, just trying to seemingly being rushed back from a toe issue, just in a very unsettled Washington offense. As much as we love Antonio Gibson, I am not expecting really anywhere close to the role we were seeing before he got hurt. And consider him like kind of like a volatile flex, or despite the specter of Gus Edwards, to me, J.K. Dobbins is still a safe, locked-in RB2.
The Antonio Gibson conundrum is such a big one, isn't it, Daigle? Because if he's in the ballgame for his usual snaps, this is exactly the type of matchup that you would want to see him just explode on. And it's, not a J.D. McKissic game because Alex Smith is not the starter, it's Dwayne Haskins. We know that the Panthers defensive line can be moved and shoved around. So if Antonio Gibson gets, 15 to 20 touches, I would love it. I would absolutely love it.
It's the type of situation, too, because we know they don't want to put the ball in Haskins' hands. They want to get rid of it as quickly as possible. Right. So why wouldn't they just run more and take the decisions out of his hands?
All right,
I feel like it could be a J.D. McKissic game, by the way, because without Terry McLaurin, they've got us in the. And Dwayne Haskins didn't have a whole lot of problems looking J.D. McKissic's way last week too, so I think McKissic could be on the field a frustrating amount.
I think that's a great point because without Terry McLaurin, no one out there you can say, "Hey, let's win a one-on-one." And I could see Scott Turner just try to manufacture, 6 receptions over to J.D. McKissic's way. All right, Daigle, down to you. Is Kareem Hunt a must-start? We kind of opened with this question, but Kareem Hunt or J.K. Dobbins?
Not a must start, but I think he's in a much better position. I would expect him to play a little bit in the slaughter out wide even today as they look to feature both running backs. Again, like the Browns are rolling out Marvin Hall and 2 players they just called up from the practice squad yesterday, all who have not run a route with Baker Mayfield. It's not a good situation at receiver. I would expect more 3 tight end sets, if anything. Even Harrison Bryant's going to get a lot of looks today. And Kareem Hunt, it would not be shocking to see him finish first or second on the team in targets.
All right, let's roll with some quarterback questions. By the way, Kareem Hunt just got the Zap Bark bump, so remember that in your lineups today. J56 Deuce on Periscope. Ryan Tannehill or Matt Ryan, weather concerns in Green Bay, do they concern you, Hayden? And Ryan Tannehill has been an absolute blur and fantastic player for the last 4 games.
Yeah, Chris Allen, one of our Rotoworld friends, he didn't seem too concerned about it. Just like there's like weather, or the structure of the stadium kind of protects it and the way the wind's going. He gets into all the details that you like to see. He didn't seem too concerned with it. And I think that there's a big enough difference between Ryan Tannehill and Matt Ryan in this matchup. I think their team total is probably like a touchdown different. So I would go Ryan Tannehill. He's been balling.
Yeah, and Vegas has that difference at 3.5 points right now, but I agree with you that it should be a little more than that. And by the way, Chris Allen was in the lab. He even went as far as to talk about that the Packers put in new seats this summer that limit the area where there used to be a gap in the stadium. So the wind swirling is now different and it's not as big of a deal. The snow's going to happen before the game and not during it. So that's going to melt with the heated tundra. I mean, Pat.
He's like a legit engineer. I
love it.
Yeah. So he knows what he's doing.
I absolutely love it. Here we go. Pat, is Divine Ozigbo playable as a running back too?
He is not. He probably will, I guess, have the touch lead over Dare Ogunbowale, but this is not an offense where we look for reasons to get Jaguars out of our lineups. And we're expecting an off the rails performance from a Jaguars team against a Bears team that's now suddenly controlling its playoff fate. So Divine Ozigbo, I think the most you could hope for is not the most, most realistically is 8 to 10 empty calorie carries, and you just have to pray that one of them is randomly a touchdown. To me, he's an RB4.
Okay, Daigle. This is a good one. We always love quarterback questions. Justin Herbert or Mitchell Trubisky? What a decline. And I wouldn't say it's completely his fault, but what a decline for Justin Herbert, who, in week 10 basically was the quarterback 5 on the season. And now we're at a point where, part of it's because Mitch just had these fantastic game scripts and games against bad defenses. Which one are you going to play here in week 16, Daigle?
I don't think it's this much of a decline, though. It's still Justin Herbert for me. I said this on the preview show, and I still believe it. Even though the total has come down, I still like the total over. We saw both Jalen Guyton and Tyron Johnson very successful in place of Keenan Allen, whether he goes or not today. So, yeah, we know the Broncos are banged up and on their 4th and 5th string corners. They aren't expected to have a pass rush. They haven't the past month. I believe Bradley Chubb also out today. So, yeah, I like Herbert a whole lot.
Hayden, here's a good one. XC Mercy, good roster. Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard, Cooper Kupp, and Tyler Lockett. Pick one. You can only start one.
For me, I think it's going to be Cooper Kupp. And I think his matchup on the inside is not that hard. And I want to like Tony Pollard, but Zeke messed that up. And Tyler Lockett, he's in a good spot too because he's not getting shadowed by Ramsey. But I'll go Kupp. He's just done more than Tyler Lockett over the last 6 weeks.
What has happened to Tyler Lockett, in your opinion, Hayden?
Probably injured. I would guess that he's playing through an injury, and we've seen the Seahawks go from first in neutral pass rate down to I think they're 17th over the last month. Chris Carson's more involved. DK Metcalf's breaking out even more. So I think all of those things kind of bring him down. He can still finish as the wide receiver 1 overall any single week. So I wouldn't blame you if you've been starting him as like a wide receiver 3 flex. Like I totally get it. It's just like he's just been busting all these weeks.
Pat, we haven't answered a Le'Veon Bell question yet, so I want to bring one up to you. Le'Veon Bell or Mike Davis in standard? He's down big after Alvin Kamara and needs upside. So which side were you going to go with here?
Oh, man. Well, if you need upside, maybe option 3. I don't know. I honestly still have more faith in Mike Davis's workload. Le'Veon Bell, I'm getting kind of like incepting myself, galaxy braining myself. I think they might honestly limit his touches today at this point to keep him healthy for the playoffs, because I don't think CEH is going to be ready for the divisional round. Maybe he will. It's not an impossibility, but I don't think they're going to like suddenly be like shoveling all these touches onto Le'Veon Bell. And that, I don't know, maybe he hasn't had a huge workload game yet, so maybe they will try to like get his sea legs really established today. But I view Le'Veon as like a last gasp RB2 against the Falcons defense. I think John has pointed out several times it actually isn't even that great of a running back matchup right now. And Mike Davis, it's just so easy, even with the touches declining, to envision 16 to 18 touches that I lean Mike Davis.
Dago, here's a good DFS question for you. Are you going to stack Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews or roll with Jalen Hurts naked and Logan Thomas?
Well, I have Jalen Hurts everywhere, so I hope he does better. But I would go – is this DFS question? If it's DFS, I mean, it's going to be Lamar and Mark Andrews. But I think Hurts and Goddard is a great play. I kind of like Rieger as a sneaky DFS play because everyone's going to think Deshaun Jackson will take away from him, but he's not going to. Remember, even when he was healthy at the beginning of the year, they refused to play him for a full allotment of snaps. So just being out there for 4 snaps helps Hurts. Doesn't help Jackson so much and does not hurt Rieger. Logan Thomas also a good play today, but I'm still, if you ask me, I have him over Hooper and Goddard and season long, but I didn't have him over Kittle, for instance, last night. I think he's like tied in 5 or 6 in my opinion. I'm worried about Washington because we're not going to see 55 attempts again. So I don't think it's going to be like a bevy of targets, like 3 players in double-digit targets again.
Panthers love to extend drives, the dink and dunks, and like they probably, and Hayden might be able to back me up on this, probably some of the longest drives in the NFL constantly, rarely go 3 and out. So I'm just not sure if Dwayne Haskins is going to be asked, like you said, to throw that many attempts this week.
I have Thomas over Hooper as well. I don't know if I said that, but yeah.
Cool.
The only thing there too, though, is that the target tree is narrowed without Terry McLaurin. So
Sure. Right. Let's set the Jalen Hurts line. Let's do that for this little segment. Hayden, Deshaun Watson or Jalen Hurts? Which side are you rolling with here?
This is tough. I've been struggling. I think it's Jalen Hurts, but it's pretty close. I don't think I'm as bullish on Jalen Hurts as some of the others, just because the passing.
He doesn't like the MVP of the NFL apparently.
I know, and he's been insane as a rusher. Some of his passing numbers are like coming in like really weird, like 4th downs, 3rd and long situations that not necessarily bankable. But the rushing, we're here for the rushing, and Jalen Hurts provides that floor. So. I totally get it. I'll go Hurts. I think my rankings are 1 spot apart.
Pat, sit one of these, continuing to set that Jalen Hurts line. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Jalen Hurts. What a difficult one. Where do they rank in your rankings?
Dear God. I believe they are 3, 4, 5 with Lamar, then Hurts, then Allen. Maybe just Josh Allen that will be needed for like the fewest theatrics. I don't know. I mean, it's tough to say because that could actually be Lamar. I can't bench Lamar Jackson's legs. I can't bench Jalen Hurts. I mean, the Bills, it's a lot of symbolism tomorrow. They want to put an exclamation point on this division title. But I think we'll maybe see like the least open game plan from the Bills. They're all like top 5 or 6 guys. I just feel like the ceiling, the floor is so high with Lamar Jackson and easily achievable ceiling every week. And the ceiling is stratospheric for Jalen Hurts. I just think maybe Josh Allen's ceiling, which is still high, is the lowest of the 3.
Let's dive into this one because maybe I'm crazy, but I just have extreme confidence in Josh Allen this week, despite the history against Bill Belichick and that Patriots defense, because I think this is, 1, a totally different Patriots team, and 2, a totally different Bills team, especially how they go out and attack their opposition. So, Pat, I would suggest, and this is crazy because he offers, from a yardage perspective, the lowest of the group, that Josh Allen is the safest bet of that trio. And week 16, I know. That's just me. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. But it's also 2 sides. So I can say that about Josh Allen, but then also say, hey, it's week 16. We want you to win your championship. Should you go with the highest possible ceiling, which is maybe 2 rushing touchdowns and 60-plus yards from Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts? Like, that's the conundrum we're in this week.
I mean, the thing is, Josh Allen's ceiling is still super high. So if you want to like minimize your risk, I mean, I guess bench Jalen Hurts because it's been 2 starts and one truly great start. Basically, you're like in a can't lose situation with these 3 quarterbacks.
All right, Hayden, down to you. Doll 2018, sit 1. All right, so sit 1 in full point PPR. J.K. Dobbins, Deontay Johnson, or Miles Sanders.
No, it would be J.K. Dobbins, and just because he doesn't have like the insane workload like we keep mentioning, and he can get there on efficiency. The same thing with Miles Sanders. You have to like Miles Sanders splits with Jalen Hurts, and there's reasons why he's running better just schematically. And going back to the last question, I'm on team Josh Allen. The Patriots are slow, and they don't have that much talent on defense right now. So I don't think the matchup's that big, and I'm playing into the narrative like the Bills want to just go smash the Patriots. So I have Josh Allen as my QB3.
I mean, they did limit him to 11 completions earlier this season when they played.
Yeah.
I mean, Stephon Gilmore is not playing now. The Patriots are fully collapsed. I totally into like team spiking the football of the Bills. But he has truly, literally, in the true sense of the word, literally never had a good start against Bill Belichick.
Jalen Hurts is not a player; he's an analogy. Like he, if you are deciding between him and these other players, that means you're probably not going to lose anyways because they're all terrific plays. Like It's not worth overthinking since they separate from one another by fractions of a point. Like just don't overthink it; it's okay.
All right, Daigle, let's set the Kareem Hunt line because that's an important one this week. J.K. Dobbins or Kareem Hunt in standard.
Oh, in standard. I think it's still Kareem Hunt for me because he has the receiving upside, whereas Dobbins, of course, still sharing the backfield, and Lamar Jackson doesn't target his running back still. So,
all right, Pat, sit 1, who he's playing against Alvin Kamara, if that helps. Full point PPR. Sit 1, Kareem Hunt, J.K. Dobbins, or Stephon Diggs. Is it J.K. Dobbins, like what Hayden just talked about, where Gus Edwards might be the one that gets the 2 goal line plunges?
It's so weird between Hunt and Dobbins. My first inclination was maybe I'd bench Hunt just on the off chance the Browns offense like goes totally off of the rails or like things aren't going well. So they have to just really funnel to like their strengths, and their main strength is Nick Chubb. But in PPR, I guess I'll bench Dobbins, and because Kareem Hunt, this is a very high targets floor this week, right? And you can't bench Diggs, obviously. So I would go Diggs. I would go Kareem Hunt. I would bench J.K. Dobbins.
All right. Hayden, more Le'Veon Bell conversation. Le'Veon Bell or David Johnson from Ken Cupid?
This one's pretty easy for me. It's David Johnson. We saw it last week. The role it's a big difference when Duke Johnson's not playing. I think that CJ Prosise was even on the inactives list as well. So it's going to be David Johnson in the 3-down role. Howell only played like maybe 10 snaps last week, and we saw David Johnson get peppered with targets. I'm not expecting that again, but I do think that you can get 15 to 20 plus goal line touches for David Johnson. I am not saying that about Le'Veon Bell. I'm expecting the Chiefs to have like a 90% neutral pass rate this week and just completely abandon the run for multiple reasons. They don't have the running back right now. The Falcons are a major pass funnel because Grady Jarrett's so good on the interior. They have nobody in the secondary. So I think that the Chiefs are just going to go crazy in the passing game this week.
Yeah, I would say part of the running back struggles are for the Chiefs all season can absolutely be associated to the run blocking of that Chiefs offensive line against Grady Jarrett. That's going to be tough. So this isn't your typical, 10.5 point home favorite. We got to hammer the running back touches because we have seen the Chiefs just abandon that and just throw all over their opponents. Meanwhile, the Texans in this situation are 7.5 point favorites. And that one to me, especially if Deshaun Watson, he's not going to get 10 targets to his running back again, but maybe 5 or 6. Hey, that'd be awesome. All right. Daigle, what's a good one here? Here we go. T. Higgins or Jacoby Myers. Someone really struggling here in week 16. Help them win their week. No Tyler Boyd for the Cincinnati Bengals. Does that mean more with T. Higgins, or is he unplayable with Ryan Finley at quarterback?
It's going to be Brandon Allen, right?
Brandon, folks. Allen season.
Oh. Yeah, I thought Allen progressed. Okay. If it were, to your point, Josh, Ryan Finley, I would say no. If it were Ryan Finley, because it's close, I would say no. But since it is Brandon Allen, we have seen that he locks onto T. Higgins. That was with Tyler Boyd on the field. Obviously, a terrible secondary through the air as well. So, no, I think T. Higgins is actually a really good play today.
All right, here's another one then, Daigle. Jamison Crowder, Kiki Cutie, or Sammy Watkins from Gunnar Ernst?
Kiki QT, I think, is the safest option. I would rank them QT, then Crowder, then Watkins. I don't think Watkins gets any trickle down from Tyreek potentially being limited. Have we talked about that situation already, by the way?
I don't think so. Go ahead.
I don't know where everyone else falls on this, but so Tyreek, I'm still starting him. If my next best option is like, let's say Tyron Johnson is a low end wide receiver 2, but I've been asked about other fringe wide receiver ones, like a DJ Moore or whatever. And if you have a safe player like that, I'd start him over Tyreek. That's fine. Because it really does sound like he's going to truly be limited today.
I feel like we've seen Tyreek Hill limited at points too. Either he gets injured early in games, then he's like in and out. Well, but there's a chance for him to score 2 touchdowns like pretty early on.
That one game last year, he returned from injury. In the first game, he had 80 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 40% target share on half the snaps. Like it didn't even matter.
Here's a good one, Pat. Has some game theory in it. Let's go. Do I play Russell Gage or gamble on Antonio Gibson later? I have a slight lead. Should I go safe? I even feel like safe and the better play is Antonio Gibson. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Gage is like a little too safe. I understand the thought process there. You just like try to bank some points is what the guy's thinking. But yeah, I mean, it's not like Antonio Gibson is like wildly unsafe. We're just kind of more trying to figure out like what his real ceiling is today. But I mean, if they're activating him, he's going to get at least 10 to 12 touches, I feel like. And I would rather roll the dice on those 10 to 12 Antonio Gibson touches than like 8 Russell Gage targets, which, could just be 5 catches for 44 yards, and which is fine. That does get you points. If you just like truly want to like get the points in the lineup, I would go Russell Gage. But yeah, I mean, my team, no matter what the situation is, I would be starting Antonio Gibson.
The battle of the running back workloads. Hayden Winks, Gio Bernard, or Mike Davis. Which side?
I think I have them both just outside the top 20 running back. They're pretty much in the same role where we think they might have a 3-down role, but we aren't fully positive because we've seen weeks where the secondary backs have sprinkled in. Neither of their teams are very good. Both their matchups are okay. Gio gets a little matchup boost. I think I'll still go Mike Davis. I just think he plays with a slightly better team, so I'll go that way.
Daigle, a lot of people facing Alvin Kamara need our help. Jay Swing 71, Mike Williams or Tyler Lockett in full point PPR. He's asking for the ceiling because again, facing Alvin Kamara and the 50 burger earlier the week.
I was muted. It's week 16. I'm going Mike Williams. I'm probably weighing too much of Williams' splits in the 2 games Keenan Allen left earlier, was inactive for earlier this year, but we've seen him just blow up from Justin Herbert when available without Allen. And so if Allen is active, but even limited or an emergency option like last week, I think it's a very big week for Mike Williams. And again, I know it's a decreasing total. I still like it over. I don't know how the Broncos stop the Chargers.
Pat, let's dig into those wide receiver rankings from Dr. Gold 0, Chad Hansen, Darnell Mooney, or Chase Claypool in full point PPR. Which one?
I mean, Darnell Mooney, who I love and I've had in Dynasty for a long time, still just has no demonstrated ceiling whatsoever. That is a good matchup, but I eliminate Darnell Mooney kind of right off the bat. And really what Chad Hansen is doing is like kind of still like Chase Claypool's floor. So I still get Chase Claypool in there with the ceiling potential. Steelers have got to like get things going on offense. I mean, we might see a different approach. Maybe we'll actually see some shots to Chase Claypool, some actual runs from Chase Claypool again. So yeah, the way I view like Chad Hansen's ceiling is still mostly Chase Claypool's floor, in my opinion. So I go Chase Claypool even with the recent weirdness.
Hayden, here's a good one from Brady Gatz in full point PPR. Corey Davis, Darrell Henderson, or CD Lamb. This is a tough one because other than like 2 weeks, Corey Davis has been the most consistent force of this trio, but for some reason we still don't want to give him the credit at large. We don't want to give him the credit he deserves this season.
Yeah, for me, it's Corey Davis. He is in a different tier than CD Lamb, like even workload wise, and he's just been balling out. I mean, he's like 3rd in yards per route run. He's like top 3 or top 4 in my PPR points over expected metric. He's just been crushing, and I don't want to get too carried away with the weather concerns. Both of these teams want to win and have elite offenses. I think this is going to be a shootout. So go Corey Davis.
Yeah, I mean, that total is 53.5.
Right.
I mean, that's absolutely wild. And we know A.J. Brown can do a lot with a little, and Corey Davis probably is going to see more volume than him. And this is against a Packers secondary, which, sure, Jair Alexander is one player. But other than that, like, let's roll. Let's absolutely roll with this Titans offense today. All right. Daigle, which do you want to go with? We didn't talk about Chris Carson at all. Chris Carson and Antonio Gibson. Where do you fall on that one?
Antonio Gibson for me. We have seen that Carson still ceding a few touches here and there to two backs behind him. Even without DJ Dallas, I bet Rashad Penny, Pete Carroll sounds like he's going to give him like 5 to 7 carries today. So in a much better matchup, I am taking the chance on Gibson.
Pat, you're the veteran member of this group, so I'm going to give you the most difficult question that we have today. Peter Perdzak, Deshaun Jackson, who is back, Kiki Cutie, Allen Lazard, or Marvin Hall. Which of these 4 wide receivers are you going to land on?
I think it's fairly easy still in Kiki Cutie, and just you just put the empty calories. It's like eating a bag of like 150 calorie potato chips and baked away. Just go ahead and house that, and don't worry about the rest. I mean, Deshaun, who even knows? Allen Lazard. I mean, does ceiling exist for Allen Lazard? I don't know. And Marvin Hall, like, should we talk about Marvin Hall? Because I did rank him. I think I have him as the wide receiver 64. It's very tough situation. Normally, like when these like beacons of like fantasy, like hacking the fantasy world, like emerge like late on a Saturday, they end up doing absolutely nothing on a Sunday. So Marvin Hall, I would have a lot of trouble putting any faith in whatsoever. But talking way too much, Kiki Cutie for this question.
Let's keep going with that Kiki Cutie line, Hayden Winks. Jaden McKissick, Kiki Cutie, or Tyron Johnson from Daniel Houston.
What's the deal with Kiki Cutie? Am I missing something? Why are there so many Kiki questions?
A lot of people, I guess, who picked him up are still playing.
The problem is he's not good is the main problem, but the work is there. That would be my guess.
Tyron Johnson's a deep threat. He's like his ADOT is like 26. It's like crazy. So unless like you are just really desperate for a big play, I think it's between McKissick and Cutie. I'm gonna go McKissick. I'm not too bullish on Antonio Gibson. I think they're for sure rushing him back just because they need a win. And I mean, turf toes aren't like that's a serious injury to like come back like within 2 weeks. So I think that J.D. McKissick is going to get a monster workload without Terry McLaurin. Like you said, Josh, I think that just the way that the offense is schemed up, we're going to see 6, 7, 8, 9 scheme touches to J.D. McKissick as a receiver out of the backfield. So I like his floor, and I think there's plenty of ceiling to chase too.
Yeah, in my highly acclaimed flag football career at Elon University, I did suffer turf toe, and I could barely walk for about 2 months. It sucks. I mean, it's absolutely awful. So I would not be shocked if what you're saying is absolutely right in the end. Okay, we've got some weird names, John Daigle. Let's get into the weirdness portion of the show. Hello, all. Who should I start between Chad Hansen, Cam Sims, Tyron Johnson, and Jacoby Myers in half-point PPR?
It would probably be between Tyron and Chad Hansen. I'm still going Chad Hansen, who I understand isn't getting as much usage as we'd like as he continues just sticking on the field and running routes from the boundary. But in my opinion, he continues still delivering. Even when he doesn't have a touchdown, he went over 100 yards that first interim game for Will Fuller. So I'm still going Chad Hansen. It's also just a great matchup against the Bengals.
Pat, here's a good one for you. Chris Carson or Amari Cooper?
I was not texting someone fantasy advice, my brother-in-law. I am still going Chris Carson. I know things are like getting a little weirder in the Seahawks backfield, but I mean, 12 to 15 carries still feels almost guaranteed for Chris Carson to me. I mean, tough matchup. Maybe it's a slugfest. Maybe it's a real close game, though. The running game is real involved. Amari Cooper, we finally have seen the floor come down a little bit of late with Andy Dalton. I think he's a safe low-end wide receiver, too, but I still consider Chris Carson kind of a locked-in mid-range RB2, and to me that wins out over the wide receiver 2 every time.
Hayden, let's talk about that Seahawks and Rams game for a second, because it's 9-5 Rams versus the 10-4 Seahawks, a total of 47.5. Seahawks at home are 1.5-point favorites. I still believe in the Rams very much, despite what they put out last week, especially against the Seattle defense. Other than, I don't know, DK Metcalf and Robert Woods, who are you most confident in that game this week?
Yeah, I think Cooper Kupp would be in there, like we said, like Tyler Lockett. I think that Darrell Henderson and Chris Carson are strong plays too. I don't want to go into the tertiary options on either of these teams though, just because, I mean, the Seahawks defense is improved. Like they've gotten a lot of pieces back at corner. Jamal Adams is back. They've added some guys on the defensive line. So this is not the same defense that we're talking about a month or two ago. And the Rams defense is elite. So I think this could be more of a slugfest than we're kind of accustomed to in these matchups. But I like Chris Carson still. His touchdown equity is so high.
Daigle, any concern Because look, obviously in week 16, we have plenty of backlogs we can go back to with these two teams playing each other. And the last time DK Metcalf faced off against Jalen Ramsey, he was held to 30 yards, something like that. The DK Metcalf got people here, but I can't help but think in their eyes, should I continue to roll with him despite what he just showed in this very singular performance last time?
So why is the question about DK Metcalf? Are we pivoting it off?
Yeah, I mean, who is someone you would pivot off of him for? Is he still among the top, 8, 12 wide receivers in your rankings this week?
I think he's a fringe wide receiver 1, so low-end wide receiver 1 probably at best. Amari Cooper would not be a pivot because Darius Slay has just absolutely bagged Amari Cooper in the past. Amari Cooper had 1 catch against Darius Slay early this year and has historically struggled against press corners. So I don't think it's a Cooper game at all. But DJ Moore around wide receiver 15 or 16. Not a Tyron Johnson. Yeah, just like a low-end wide receiver 2. If someone's comfortable with that, I'm totally fine playing him over Metcalf. I know Ayuk was a popular question, and of course Ayuk felt the Beathard wrath. So
get Ayuk out of your lineups, guys. Just do it.
Pat, up to you. Juju Smith-Schuster, Russell Gage, or Mike Williams from EA?
I actually don't have a good answer for this one. I feel like Hayden would have a better answer for this one. And I'm just staring at my lineup. I'm not allowed to consult my rankings or man.
Hayden, the big question is how much without Julio Jones will that impact the Falcons offense? And 2, how much can Russell Gage eat into that workload that typically would go to Julio Jones?
Well, I think with the Falcons, the splits are going to be a little different because they completely gave up on the run game. And earlier in the season, they were trying to get Todd Gurley in on early downs. And we haven't seen that the last month. So I do think if you're looking at the total splits with Matt Ryan, yes, his efficiency is going to drop because Julio's not out there, but they're going to pass way more. So I think that's why you're going to see Russell Gage, Hayden Hurst, these guys actually mix in with usable lines. So I do think there is reason to look Russell Gage's way. But I think it's Mike Williams here. No Keenan, no Hunter Henry. We like Justin Herbert. We like Mike Williams, the player. It's always just been he's been so one-dimensional downfield. Maybe he gets more work inside the 10, 15 yards of the line of scrimmage. So, and like Daigle said, the Broncos are still missing 3 or 4 of their top guys at corner. So for me, it's Mike Williams. Juju might have maybe a little safer floor, but at the same time, the Steelers are projected for the 26th most points on the week. So what exactly is his ceiling? So for me, it's Mike Williams.
Pat, I'll roll this one back to you from Robert Klin. Sit one. Calvin Ridley, Allen Robinson, and A.J. Brown. Obviously, you're not sitting Calvin Ridley, so it really comes down to Allen Robinson versus A.J. Brown.
Yeah, and you really can't bench A.J. Brown this Lambo, this stratospheric game total. And Allen Robinson kind of made it easy just by being questionable. And it seems like he'll be ready probably for his normal snaps, his normal workload. But the other 2 guys this in stratospheric spots, and then Allen Robinson nursing the hamstring injury, that kind of makes this one easy, even though I still view Allen Robinson as a top 10 wide receiver this week.
For people who joined us late, Daigle, let's take the time to give our take, as XC Mercy asks us to, on Ezekiel Elliott versus Tony Pollard. What do you expect the volume, the opportunity to be for each one today?
10 to 15 touches for both. I expect Zeke to out-touch Pollard since they still are tied to that contract and him, but Pollard I'm fully expecting him to outperform Zeke. I think he's the better play if you have a 1v1 matchup in season-long leagues. And then it's a Yahtzee if Zeke re-aggravates his calf, or perhaps they just lean on Pollard down the stretch because he performs better in the first half. But the least option I'm worried about is Zeke playing good today.
Well, I'm going to ask you a question from Josh Norris in the chat. Josh Norris wants to know Tony Pollard or Marquise Brown.
I'm still Pollard, Pat. You could disagree that I'm still very concerned about Marquise Brown's target share. They went through that COVID stint list where he was only getting targets because 40-year-old Des Bryant was the only other option for the Ravens to throw to. And then last week was the first time I was actually impressed because they did give him more targets with everyone available. But I'm still very wary of his share.
You mean they seem like they're trying to finally force the issue with Marquise Brown, but I don't know. Are we concerned about James Bradbury? I don't know. What was the question? Honestly, I think Tony Pollard will out-touch Zeke still. John, you mentioned Zeke's contract. I think that is but I think with Zeke, they have so much invested in him they're probably not. They're probably going to keep tread on his tires these final 2 weeks. I feel like maybe the only reason he's playing, maybe he's just one of those players that like refuses to sit. Kind of why they're getting him in the game. So I actually do think Tony Pollard will touch Zeke. Obviously, I'm just completely guessing, but I have Tony Pollard ranked higher.
All right,
I have more faith in the workload.
Hayden, let's go around the horn here. It's an important question. It can win me my championship in the NBC Sports League, which I'm only valid to compete in for the next week.
Exactly. I'm going Tony Pollard. I'm going to roll the dice. I'm going to roll the dice. It's I mean, they're both boom bust. They're the same player at different positions. I think that there's just a higher chance that Tony Pollard is the workhorse in this scenario. Whether it's a step back or whatever.
You can win the NBC A League and then walk away with the title?
Some might say back-to-back champ.
Wow, this is like 2011
champ, possibly.
2011 CM Punk, Josh. You're going out on top. I love this.
I don't know how many people since Greg Rosenthal have won back-to-back A-League championships. So I could be, the second in that line.
Amazing.
We will see. All right, we'll keep it moving. Let's go here. Pat, up to you. Jonathan Taylor or Deontay Johnson from Jason Wong, who's joined us a lot this year. Thank you for doing that, Jason.
This one feels vaguely. Jonathan Taylor was a hard one to rank. I've loved the usage and the workload so much the past few weeks. I love that it's now a 2-man committee instead of 3. The Steelers still a tough run defense. They are banged up though. I will go Jonathan Taylor. I think probably still has the higher ceiling. Deontay Johnson is such a locked-in floor. But I do not want to lose in the fantasy finals with Jonathan Taylor on my bench at this point, which is a very cliche old school answer. But I have faith in the workload. And even against a tough defense, when Jonathan Taylor gets 15 to 20 touches, any one of those could be home runs. So I go John Taylor over Mr. Drops.
Taylor was a high-end or RB1, a top 5, top 6 play the past month of the season. But because of the matchup, he moves down to RB10, RB11. But he's still a good touch-based play who can squeeze in inside the 10-yard line.
The Colts are also missing both of their tackles, and I think their backup left tackle too. So usually it's a really good offensive line. You have to kind of knock him down a little bit for that as well. We've
legitimately seen Jonathan Taylor run through holes that 7 Jonathan Taylors could fit through, and that will absolutely not happen against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I think that is concerning. I'm also concerned, just to backtrack here, Tony Pollard, the Cowboys offensive line going up against the Philadelphia Eagles defensive line. But I don't know, guys. I don't know. All right. Speaking of Mr. Drops, as Patrick Doherty just termed him, Daigle, down to you. Cooper Kupp or Deontay Johnson? A lot of people concerned about Deontay Johnson, and it makes sense after what we've seen from Ben Roethlisberger in the last few weeks.
Yes, correct. And again, so there's a lot going on here. Steelers, I think they're a good bet because they were their line at Christmas was much lower, whereas now it favors the Colts. So I do like the Steelers, but we have seen that Deontay Johnson also has taken on a heavy target share when all have been available, as long as he does not get benched. And I think that is more constant and consistent than Cooper Kupp's share in what I believe will be a low-scoring game between the Seahawks and Rams and more of a run-based attack for the Rams.
Hayden, Southern Westie, Allen Robinson or Antonio Gibson in standard? Good luck to all in the finals.
Yeah, for me, it's Allen Robinson. I think I would have even picked this. I wouldn't have picked this if it was fully and healthy Antonio Gibson. But yeah, I do have some legit concerns about Antonio Gibson. That doesn't mean that you have to take him out if you're in the finals. If you need an upside play, he's obviously the upside play. I do think that his floor is really, really low. And I mean, Allen Robinson's just a baller.
Yep. Pat, let's go to the quarterback question here. From KG, Deshaun Watson or Jalen Hurts?
I mean, Jalen Hurts. I mean, Deshaun Watson is kept with the MVP form, a horse I've been beating to death over the past month. I mean, even without Will Fuller now, he's still finding a way to have these extreme efficiency, extremely high YPA, low turnover games. But the ceiling has just not really been there in fantasy since Will Fuller was out. So he's still providing a very high floor, still providing some really great real life performances. It is a really great matchup today, but Jalen Hurts, I know we're operating on such a limited sample size, but I feel like if you have Jalen Hurts, you basically have lucked into a league winning, kind of X factor. And then against the Dallas Cowboys, especially, maybe one thing, it was another tough matchup against the Dallas Cowboys. I have to get Jalen Hurts in there.
All right, gentlemen, that's going to do it for our Rotoworld Live season. I appreciate you guys taking an hour out of your Sunday mornings / afternoons all season long. I appreciate everyone out there for tuning in. We will have one more game-by-game recap show on the Rotoworld Football podcast. Go and download that right now, wherever you use, whatever podcast platform you have. And then we'll have one more game-by-game preview show on Wednesday for the 2020 season. Guys, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you to Applebee's, as always, because they've been serving this show all season long. All right, everyone out there, good luck in your fantasy football championships. For Pat, for Daigle, for Hayden, producer Steven, I am Josh, up the Villa. Talk to y'all soon. See ya.